Bismillah, الرحمن الرحيم. High in the northern hemisphere of the planet, and stretched far away from the equator, is the top of the continent of Africa, which sits under the continent of Europe. Between the continents is a deep waterway that connects the ocean of the North Atlantic to the sea basins of the Mediterranean. The waterway is itself from the land of Africa's topmost tip in the distance of 9 miles of deep water separation from the bottom of the land of Spain. The continents are within eye's view of each other. Once the waterways of the ocean Atlantic meet the way for the sea of the Mediterranean, they spread very widely and continue spreading from the sea basin Alboran, where the waters open widely and the continental shelves plunge. To the north is the land of Spain, and to the south is the land of Morocco. More widely spreading and ever deeply, further into the sea of the Mediterranean, towards the sea basin Algerian. North is the land of France, and south is the land of Algeria, until steeply rising in confrontation with the islands of Italy and the mainland Italy, which surround the sea basin of the Tyrian, except south, where, sweeping broadly, the ocean floor depths ascend, and the top of Africa careens southward at a 90-degree angle. This oceanography, which most fluently complements the boundary and spacious shores of the land of Tunisia, entirely defines the coastline before it spreads very far again and descends slowly in the water space above the south's neighbor land of Libya, deeper and deeper descending, further far spreading in width, until below the water falls into the sea basin of Ainama, where the deepest water is located. South, the land of Libya undulates, past the width of space that in the north, the land of Albania, the land of Greece, and the land of Bulgaria are altogether wide. The Sea of the Mediterranean is here between the continents of Africa, the land of the south, and of Europe, the land of the north, at a soft angle closed in upon. Then the sea basin of Levantine spreads wide and very deeply. The land of Egypt is south, and the land of Turkey is north. This is the last oceanic chasm of the Sea of the Mediterranean. Now, for as broadly the distance from the land south and the land north, in which the sea basin of Levantine is lain, moderately of pace the floor raises in steps, directly to the beaches of Syria, Lebanon, Israel, and Gaza. If we take from the Sea of the Mediterranean onto the furthest inward shores, at the east, where it bends from the south, the water changes from dark blue to turquoise, and low waves of surf roll onto suede-colored sands and crash and withdraw in a tide. All the way north on the eastern side of the sea, the Mediterranean, from the south, the coastline is an alternation of city and rural lands. We would make entrance from the land of Gaza and travel directly east, passing the border into the flat, fertile land of Israel's agricultural developments, and passing just south of the southern edge of the Dead Sea. We are still due east, for the pastel gray, pink, and gold of open sands, and the dark gray truffles of rockland, like waves in rows, holding moderate elevation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wherever you are in the world today, like every day before and every day that will follow, you yourself will occupy a tiny space on the surface of the planet, and the size of you has no comparison to any measure of your worth. It is so curious how the powers of your mind might chariot you to any imaginable destination, however they may have been gotten to take you. It seems that you, a lone person, cannot do anything anywhere except by encounters with items that are definitely separate from you. When going around in the place where you are staying to live, if your encounters had been solely the stiff beds of grass and sifting sands, the bright sun which heats the enveloping blanket of still air and shines onto trees that all stretch up toward to be closer and stay nearer, like the date palm trees and the acacia trees and fig trees. If your encounters had been solely these items, then your concerns should be perhaps a small amount. But rather than such descriptions alone, which are more influential than stationary existence of grass, sand, sunlight, and trees, for them suddenly sight, scent, and taste are not the only senses to help you in the encounters. You have more resources. You have hearing and speech and feeling and thought. Actually, it is very common to all educational systems that they are taught about 5 senses of perception. What has been excluded are speech, while instead speech has been excluded from the list of the senses of perception because it is not a directly obvious sense. Yet you would know this without ever having any education whatsoever. You would know the instant you use it, the sense of speech. Your ability to talk, to recite, and to give conversations was founded upon the sense of speech. To do any of these items, you must put energy into your voice box and let your tongue and mouth supplement its movements so that utterances of specific sounds go out. For speech, changing the sounds that you make is entirely the purpose for having control of the energy in your voice box. How and why were you ever able to speak just from putting your energy in your voice box? In fact, you were not ever. Speech is not the opening and closing of our lips, nor the exertion of a breath of air. Speech has not been located in the ear, where you have your sense of hearing. A deaf person can speak, and a mute person can hear. If you ask a deaf person, how do they learn to speak? They would say, they have learned to speak by sensing from their own vibrations, from the sound that they make, and the posture of their voice box changing. If you yourself had tried to plug your ears, and from the sound say out loud some words, how do you know that the words you delivered are the same ones you sent forth? But you would be sure of it because you have the sense of speech. When the basic encounters you have only beckon your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, this is the life of everything silent, like the bed of earth, the canopy of the sky, the moisture of water, the sweetness of fruit, and the comforting embrace they wrap you into. Then it seems very peaceful, and you know that you do not have to worry about anything wrecking that peacefulness that your eyes, your nose, and your mouth know they can depend on getting from the many various encounters they may have. But it was minutes only which passed, and you noticed there was something else. It was a sound from something that made noise, and you can hear it, like the flurry of water droplets which slide across the sides of the riverbanks and rush into currents which flow over the riverbed, or the tap of rain when it bumps into the ground. like wind that sails across the land in every direction, or breeze that carries the wings of birds who are singing and calling and flapping their feathers against the pull of gravity. This is the first moments that you found yourself encountering a world that is not quiet, but instead it's full of movement. The sense of hearing is the part of you that goes into the world where you start to know the trillions of ways that you are different from other people, because no matter anything that sounds similar or who makes noises who are exactly like your own noises, they cannot sound where you are. They must always sound in a place other than your place, because the noise that belongs to you comes from you, and the noise that does not belong to you does not come from you. And this is how you guarantee that you are separate from anything else. Your sense of hearing verifies that the origin of the sound was something that you had no partaking of, and the sense of feeling and the sense of thought are quite reliant on the verification that you are separate from everything you encounter, so that the sense of hearing has a special influence. Allahu Akbar.